All right, well, it's about 12:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. Our Take 10 presentation today is on judging. So let's begin with some basic quick facts to get us started. It is important to keep in mind that judging is not necessarily right or wrong or good or bad. In fact, it's subject to human interpretation, so just something to consider. And also, judging is not fact. But it is based on a set of standards that fit the intended use of a particular product. 4-H members have judging opportunities most commonly with county, district, and state contests. If we think about it, judging is actually just a decision-making skill, and it involves specifically evaluating a set of 4 products or 4 like items in a class. This slide provides an example of what each of the 4-H judging contests entail. In other words, what's evaluated and on what basis. First off is CDM, or Consumer Decision Making, which evaluates consumer products that are sold for a specific use and typically include things like backpacks, toothpaste, jeans, yogurt, things like that. The horticulture contest will evaluate classes of fruits, vegetables, household plants, or landscape plants. In the agronomy contest, you might have classes like grain crops, including feed samples, forage crops like loose hay or green chop, and also fruits or vegetables. Dairy judging involves breeding cattle, evaluated on their physical characteristics, their pedigree, and their milk production history. Land judging looks at the potential for crop production based on soil, terrain, and water properties on the land. Livestock judging can include sheep, pigs, cattle, and goats, and those are animals that are intended for meat production or breeding purposes. And then moving on to meat judging looks at both retail and wholesale cuts of beef, pork, and lamb. And then finally at the bottom is horse judging, which evaluates several classes, including halter and both English and Western riding classes. When you enter a judging contest, you will be given a card where you will mark your placings. Some contests have multiple classes, and so you will be given a blank card for each class. You may also be given a single sheet that has a designated space for each class with multiple classes on that sheet. So it's real important that you all fill out that card properly. You'll start by putting your name and your county up at the top. And then you'll add your contestant number, which is a combination of your county number and your place on that team. But that's only if you're competing on a team. If not, then you don't have to worry about that. For example, if you are from Bernalillo County and you are member number 2 on that team, you would write 0401-2 on your judging card. Then you'll go on and write the name of that class, such as market goats, breeding heifers, apples, toothpaste, whatever it may be that's pertinent to the contest that you're doing. After you have evaluated the class, you will then mark your placing in the box next to your choice. The column on the left here lists all of the possible placings. So all you do is simply mark an X or a check mark in that blank space next to that set of numbers. Some people will also circle that their choice, and that's okay too, just as long as it's easy to read and easy for the judge to see. There at the bottom, you'll see a place for your placing score and your reasons score, and we'll talk about reasons here in just a bit. There are 4 main ideas to keep in mind when judging a class. First of all, what merits are being judged? For example, if you are judging a class of apples, you will want to evaluate those based on things like color, size, shape, and other characteristics that pertain to apples specifically. If you're judging tablets, a set of tablets, you will consider things like storage capacity, features or capabilities, and finally cost, among other things. Next, you'll want to consider the intended use for that product. For example, forages are judged for their quality as an animal feed source, while meat is judged for its quality and palatability for human consumption. Next, you'll consider the product standard or ideal. When judging a set of market animals, you'll want to be able to recognize good lines, muscle definition, and structural soundness. And finally, you will evaluate these individual products in a class compared to each other and also compared to that ideal. Here you can list the pros and cons of each individual to help you decide where it will place in the class. Now let's talk about reasons. In most judging contests, members will give at least one, sometimes two sets of reasons. These are an organized statement that explains the class placing based on the comparison to each other and to the standard. You will have some time to prepare your reasons after you finish judging the class or classes, and then you'll be given about 1 to 2 minutes to present those reasons to the judge. Here you will be scored on your knowledge of the subject, including appropriate terminology, the accuracy of your statements, and finally, the organization and speaking skills with which you present those. Reasons are scored on your ability to defend your placement and not whether or not the judge agrees with your placing. It is helpful to try to create a mental image or picture in your mind of that class when giving reasons rather than trying to memorize them. So learning to give a good set of reasons is a great skill, but it can be challenging at first. My suggestion is to use a simple template or a format that you like that's simple and easy to follow, where you just fill in the blanks. And here on this slide is a great example. You'll start by greeting the judge with a simple good morning or good afternoon. It's not recommended to introduce yourself or shake their hands. You just go right into your reasons, because there are lots of kids in front of you and lots of kids behind you. So you start by saying, I place this class of whatever you're judging, and then go ahead and tell them your placing. Then go on and compare your top pair. Tell why you place one over the other, and you can grant a positive quality to that lower place, but then also tell their faults. Next, you'll compare your middle pair in the same manner, where you will explain why you placed one over the other. You can again grant a positive quality to that lower place, and then tell its faults and why it placed lower in that pair. Continue on in the same pattern, moving on to your bottom pair. Again, tell why you placed one over the other. You can grant a positive quality here if there is one. Sometimes there's not, but if there is, go ahead and grant it to that lower place. And then again, list the faults and explain that is why that animal placed last. Wrap up by saying, for these reasons, I place this class of whatever you're judging, and then tell that placing once again. As you get more experience, you will develop a greater terminology and vocabulary to enhance your reasons. Keep in mind, it takes a lot of practice and over many years, to get really good at giving reasons. So judging scores are usually based on 100 points, with 50 points for placing and 50 points for reasons. Scores are generated based on the cut between each pair or the degree of similarity between those two members of the class. For example, in this placing, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, the cut in the top pair is listed as a 1, which means that cut is small. So that means that if these two items are very similar, and if they are switched in the placing, there is only a small penalty or number of points lost in the score. Looking at the middle pair, that is a much larger cut between number 2 and number 3. So that just means that those two items are obviously different and obviously need to be placed in that order. If this placing is wrong or switched, then you will lose a fair number of points, not a ton, but some. And then finally, moving on to the last pair, which has a cut of 2, it's kind of a moderate number, which means that those two items in that class or individuals in that class are similar, but yet have some obvious differences that can easily be depicted in the placing. So again, if you switch those, you may lose some points, but it won't be a terrible penalty. So there are a lot of really great opportunities for novice, junior, and senior members to participate in judging contests in 4-H. Judging is a great tool for learning critical thinking skills, planning and organizing, and speaking skills, which help build confidence in youth. There is also opportunity to compete both individually and on a team, which gives them an opportunity for 2 scores and 2 opportunities for achievement. And beyond that, there are a lot of great career options that require judging skills. So this is a skill that they can take, even beyond their 4-H career. Thank you. This concludes my presentation.